All right. So I kind of want to talk just real quick about this viral clip of Sneako, this guy that goes by Sneako on multiple different streaming sites. He's a streamer, he's a content creator, whatever you want to call him, and he's sort of in the similar vein, I guess, as guys like Andrew Tate, and sort of focuses a lot of his commentary around being anti-LGBTQ, sort of like up in your face misogynist, and basically being an absolutely terrible role model for young kids, or especially young boys. And we got a clip here of him being confronted with the reality of what some of his influence actually is having on younger generations. So we're gonna see Sneako here. It's this guy, and he's basically gonna be interacting with some of his young fans. And let's just go ahead and hear what his young fans have to say.
Did you take? Fuck the woman! Fuck the woman!
What? No, wait. We love women. We love women. We love women.
But not like transgenders.
Yes, sir. We love everybody. No.
All gays should die.
Yeah, merch. Preach. What have I done?
Can I get in the video? Fucking talk.
Can I get in the video? Yeah. Talk to him.
Yo, what's up?
All right, so obviously you have the first kid jumps in there, he's hyped up, he's saying fuck women, and then Sneako sort of like seems kind of hesitant about that, and then he follows it up and he says like, you know, maybe, you know, we love women, and then the kid says, you know, well fuck, you know, trans people basically, and then another kid chimes in and you know, offers his take as well. And listen, I mean, at the end of the day, seeing this kind of thing is very depressing in a lot of ways, because, you know, I mean, what's going to happen to a lot of these kids growing up and actually entering the real world and trying to interact with real people, and you know, see how far this kind of an attitude actually gets you, right? Because this isn't going to, you know, I guess sort of a lot of these young kids who are obviously very impressionable and maybe look up to Sneako or guys like him with the kind of content that he puts out there. You know, a lot of them are going to come to, I think, a rude awakening when they start to realize that this is not actually the strategy for being a so-called, you know, masculine man, or an alpha male, or a sigma male, or whatever the fuck kind of you know, terminology that you want to use. And I think there is going to be a rude awakening for a lot of young people, and I don't blame these young kids, because this is the influence of the kinds of people that they're seeing coming across their, you know, whatever, TikTok feeds, YouTube streams, wherever they're watching Sneako. I don't even know what platforms he's allowed on at this point, but you know, this is the influence that he has. And it's very similar to Andrew Tate in a lot of ways. We saw reports of teachers in elementary schools who were coming out and saying that they saw a marked, you know, noticeable shift in a lot of the young boys at a lot of these schools, you know, with the rise of Andrew Tate and then being a lot more homophobic, the transphobic, you know, misogynistic, all of those things. And I just want to say, you know, obviously, I don't consider myself to be like the beacon of masculinity. I don't think anybody could really hold that title, because I think masculinity in and of itself is sort of like an amorphous term. But, you know, I mean, even with that being said, you know, I don't see myself as some sort of like a masculine, you know, older role model for young kids or anything like that. You know, that's not really my forte in any way, shape, or form. But at the same time, I would like to say, like, if you are a young person, right? I've been in the shoes of some of these young kids and being influenced by internet culture and stuff like that. And I just want to say, like, when you get older and you start to actually interact with real people in the real world, and you're not talking shit to your friends, and you're not just sitting around on the internet and, you know, buying into some of the shit that guys like Sneako are selling, you know, this shit is not going to fly. Okay, I'll say that. And I'll also say that, like, if you want to look towards, you know, what an actual masculine man or an alpha male or whatever the fuck looks like in the real world, I would say, you know, don't look to guys like Sneako who are looking for internet clout. Don't look to guys like Andrew Tate who are, you know, exploiting women and trying to profit off of being the most controversial, hyperbolic, sort of like, you know, attention-grabbing figure that they can. Because at the end of the day, they're trying to extract as much money out of you as they possibly can, and keeping your eyes on their streams or their content or whatever the case may be, in order to you know, enrich themselves, get themselves a little bit more clout at the end of the day. And you know, if you actually want to be masculine, just my sort of like general takes on this, right? If you want to be quote unquote masculine in the way that I guess like Sneako sort of like defines it or uses that terminology, you know, if you want to be masculine, then, you know, focus on actually trying to improve people's lives around you, right? Be respectful to people around you. Live your life in as free a way as you possibly can. Be as true to yourself as you possibly can, and respect other people's lives, right? Whether that's, you know, trans people, whether that's, you know, any member of the LGBTQ community, whether that's women, whatever the case may be as respectful as you possibly can to other people in the way that they want to live their lives, right? Because it's a great sign of, I think, honestly, insecurity if you are somebody who relies on defining your own personality on putting other people down, or trying to separate yourself from a different group of people and trying to put that group of people down, right? I think that that's a great sign of insecurity. It's definitely not a sign of masculinity or strength or whatever terms that you want to use in that context. You know, focus on actually trying to build solidarity with other people, and instead of trying to be this, you know, so-called alpha male or sigma male and trying to dominate other people. Okay, because that's not how the real world works. When you try to actually form a community and friendships and relationships around yourself of people who legitimately care about you and aren't trying to exploit you and aren't trying to take advantage of you, what's going to matter at the end of the day is whether or not you are a genuine person who cares about other people, who respects other people and the way that they want to live, and being secure in and of yourself, right? So I look at guys like Andrew Tate, I look at guys like Sneako, and they love to posture as I'm the confident, you know, alpha male, and, you know, I'm out hustling and grinding everybody else, and I need to put down women, and I need to put down people in the LGBTQ community in order to form my own identity. It is the epitome, okay, of insecurity within your own self. Okay, nobody who is actually secure in who they are as a person and who is confident in who they are as a person needs to rely on these sort of tactics in order to, you know, build themselves up as a person. Okay, so I'll just say that on that issue. Now, in case you thought, you know, because of some of the sort of like facial expressions or the reactions that Sneako had during this interaction with some of his young fans, where he looked shocked at the camera, that they would say something like that, and you may have thought like, oh, maybe he's having some sort of an awakening here, maybe he'll realize the damage of his influence. No, he has doubled and tripled and quadrupled down on it. So we followed up here with a quote tweet. He says, they are children and obviously joking. Okay, sure, they're probably joking to some extent, but again, this shit gets deeply ingrained. I mean, this is stuff that they're probably saying around their friends, they're saying around other people, and you know, this is formative, right? These are young kids. This is going to have an impression on them for the foreseeable future. He says, this is how I was at 12. Okay, it's not how I was at 12, but sure. He says, but if it sounds egregious to you, blame the rainbow flags in their classrooms. Blame the media for emasculating men. It's your fault for forcing an obvious agenda, not these kids. Boys will be boys. So listen, I mean, I was a kid at their same age. I obviously, you know, back in the day had controversial, not even controversial, fucked up opinions on things, right? Because I didn't know what the fuck was going on. So again, I'm not blaming these kids for anything in any way, shape, or form. But the idea that, you know, you should blame the quote-unquote rainbow flags in their classrooms, blame the media for emasculating men's, it's your fault for forcing it. What is the agenda that we're talking about here? What? Just allowing gay and trans people to exist in society and giving respect to those communities and showing solidarity with them as they're facing an unprecedented wave of anti-trans, anti-gay legislation that's passing across the country right now. That's some sort of like an obvious agenda. I mean, I would say the reverse of that, right? You're selling an obvious agenda of what? Of basically just maintaining the same power structures that have been in place for a vast majority of human history, right? At least over the last couple hundred years. And that's the most ironic part about guys like Sneako or about guys like Andrew Tate, is that they love to sort of try to put themselves in this position where they make themselves out to be as if they're the ones who are challenging the dominant power structures within society, while doing the complete opposite of that and actually protecting the dominant power structures within society, right? I mean, these are the same guys. They'll defend capitalism, they'll defend the patriarchy, they will defend all of the anti-LGBTQ hysteria around the country, right? This is nothing new, okay? You're not some sort of a revolutionary. You're not fighting against the powerful, corrupt elites within society. You're doing the exact opposite of that. You're looking at some of the most marginalized people within society and trying to use them as a punching bag, okay? That's what you're actually doing, right? So, I mean, that's the great irony of all of this, right? And that applies to a lot of conservative commentators at the end of the day, right? is they know that leftists sort of have this advantage inherently because we do have a legitimate critique of things like big pharma or the military industrial complex or corruption in politics or powerful elites that are making decisions that are not beneficial to the wide swath of the American people, right? We actually do have a substantive critique of those power structures, of those institutions, and so they try to tap in to that sort of rhetoric and that sort of narrative and then flip it on its head and actually use this to say, no, it's not, you know, the capitalists at the top of society. It's not the billionaires. It's not the actual elites that are fucking us all over in the society that we live in. It's actually the most marginalized people within society. It's the LGBTQ community. It's the immigrant community. It's the black community within the United States. And so it's really depressing at the end of the day because a lot of people fall for this because it's a compelling narrative for somebody who is young and impressionable and they want to see the world in a really simplistic way where it's black and white and I'm on the good team and other people are on the bad team and, you know, trying to have this sort of like domineering perspective. And, you know, I mean, again, it's very depressing to see shit like this. So I don't really have much more besides that to offer. I mean, again, I'll just give my take on sort of masculinity. If you want to actually be like a so-called masculine man, there are plenty of other, you know, places that you can look to try to get content. Maybe I'll link some of those below in the description if you want to go check some of them out yourself. I mean, obviously, I don't think a large portion of my own community is having a difficult time with this. But, you know, if you're having struggles in terms of forming your own identity as a young man in this country, I think there are plenty of reasons why some people may be struggling with that. But these kinds of people, Andrew Tate, Sneako, Aiden Ross, whatever the fuck the rest of these guys, they're the last people that you want to look towards, okay? This is not going to help you get women, right? This is not going to help you advance within society. This is just going to make you feel isolated. It's going to make you feel alone. It's going to make you feel alienated, okay? It's not going to lift yourself up. It's not going to produce positive outcomes for you in the future. If you want to do that, look internally, okay? Look towards people who are around you, form meaningful relationships with your friends, with your family, respect other people the same way that you want to respect yourself, respect how other people want to live their lives, live your life as you want to live it. And I mean, I guess that's all I can kind of say at the end of the day. I mean, again, clips like this, very depressing to see what maybe the long-term trajectory of the commentary or the content that a lot of these guys are putting out. It is depressing at the end of the day, but I think that we have a lot more to offer. And you know, for those young men who feel alienated or feel like they you know, need some sort of like a role model to look up towards, you know, look somewhere else, because this kind of content, the products of what this kind of content are obviously shoving in our face right now, that's just not it.
Everyone is saying good politic guy has the best politic. Believe me, no one does it like him. Believe me, everyone is saying